We will continue this winning culture in DC. Let's bring it to the football side. Welcome to Street Scores. It's your boy Rico bringing y'all a draft edition of Redskins Report. Today's topic, I'm giving y'all the Redskins Dream 2020 mock draft. I'm creating a dynasty. I have a big trade down for us to acquire more first round picks. We're going to get all into that real soon. Let's get it. Now, a big disclaimer for the folks that can't read. This is a dream scenario. It's semi-realistic, and it's quite possible, but it's clearly not very possible. But it's definitely possible. I did hours of research looking up previous draft pick trades throughout the NFL over the past few years, and I did hours and hours of research and premature film watching for these college prospects. So some of them may not be as good as they seem by April, and the opposite, but we'll see. Also, this was requested by a lot of Street Scores family members, so I'm very happy to get this video out to y'all. Took a lot of work, but I got to it. But other than the front office changes that I will discuss about in a later video, let's get into how these Redskins are about to turn this franchise around with the talent on the team. Now, in the first round, with the second overall pick, I have us taking edge Chase Young, cornerback Jeffery Okudah with the 8th pick, tackle Andrew Thomas from Georgia with the 13th pick, tight end Bryson Hopkins with the 25th pick, and then in the second round I have us getting tackle Alex Leatherwood. In the fourth round I have us taking inside linebacker Troy Dye. In the fifth round, wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins. In the sixth round, cornerback Eric Stokes. And with the fourth pick of the seventh round, I have us taking interior offensive lineman Solomon Kinley. And in our very last pick of the draft, I have us taking the running back Patric Taylor Jr. And I'm about to break down each pick and why we picked them. But first I need to explain everything that happened before the minute we took Chase Young in this draft. First of all, let me show you how we acquired these picks. Whether or not we are worse than the Dolphins, we only lost to them because they purposely went for a 2-point conversion so they could throw the game away. That's what it looked like to me. They purposely called a terrible play, and it looked like they told the receiver not to catch it. So honestly, we may be worse than them with Case Keenum at quarterback. So I believe we may actually end up with the first overall pick unless Haskins comes in and is great, or the Cowboys sit their starters the last game of the season to avoid injuries heading into the playoffs. Like honestly, if we barely beat the Dolphins who lost the game on purpose, who can we beat? So we can easily lose every game for the rest of the season if Haskins doesn't start and ball out. So this mock draft isn't necessarily based on me wanting the Skins to tank from here. We can definitely end up with the first pick like I'm using as a basis for this trade down in this video. And while a Ryan Fitzpatrick led Dolphins may be able to pull out some wins against the Jets, Bengals, or Giants, they are in fact terrible. So I have them getting the second overall pick. Then there are the QB needing Bengals. They have a pretty tough schedule, so they will lose a lot of games, but they don't seem as bad as us and the Dolphins. They barely lost to the Seahawks, Bills, and Ravens. They may be able to sneak in a few wins. They will really want a QB and the chance to pick up which one they prefer between Justin Herbert and Tua and let Miami get the guy they don't pick. And then there's the Jets, who don't need a quarterback and aren't very relevant to this situation, but they will end up with the fourth pick because they beat the Cowboys and clearly showed they are better than us three teams in the Redskins, Dolphins, and Bengals. So it's very possible we can get the first overall pick. The Dolphins will get the second. The Bengals will get the third. And we can hold that first overall for ransom and force the Bengals and Dolphins to bid against each other. Going once, going twice. I'm assuming the Dolphins will know the Bengals will be calling us trying to get the first overall pick, and I can definitely see a scenario where the Dolphins offer their second overall and their 8th overall from the Steelers if the Steelers remain 23rd in the NFL standings, and a 6th rounder, and we have to give them our 1st overall and our 3rd rounder. We will also get some picks for trading players. We can easily trade Trent Williams to the Browns for their 1st rounder. As of right now, the Cleveland, in dire need of an all-pro tackle to protect their franchise quarterback, Browns, have the 13th pick in the draft if it were to start today, and they would easily give up their 13th pick for an all-pro left tackle who should be fully healthy and fresh after sitting out for so long. Sadly, Josh Norman might not even be tradable for some cheddar ruffles at this point, but Ryan Kerrigan, even with him having a down year and being 31 years old, could easily be worth a 2nd round pick. especially since he performed well last year with 13 sacks, and he's as durable as it gets in this league. He has never missed a start since getting drafted in 2011. That's crazy. But there's many teams out there who need an edge rusher real bad. The Chiefs are in win now mode and are not worried about Ryan Kerrigan's age. Frank Clark is playing well, but there's no presence opposite of him. So offenses are focusing their attention on Frank Clark. Acquiring a proven product in Ryan Kerrigan would improve their pass rush and help mask their weaknesses in the secondary and linebacker group. The Chiefs may be willing to give up, as of right now, their 25th pick in the first round to bolster their front seven and then figure out how to protect Pat Mahomes, and then go make a strong Super Bowl push before they have to pay Pat Mahomes a record-breaking extension this offseason that was reported a few weeks back. Between the Chiefs' desperation and Ryan Kerrigan's durability and dependability to produce, I feel like we can get that 25th overall pick from them, especially after looking through years of draft pick trades. Also, as much as it hurts, for the sake of this extreme rebuilding exercise, I have the Redskins trading Adrian Peterson, who is capable of a 100 rushing yard game any given weekend and still looks healthy enough to run a couple of more seasons and is on a cheap contract, to the Bears for a second round pick. AD is fresh off a 100-yard game, and he is better than any of the Bears' downhill running backs. Tariq Cohen is a third down back. AD is definitely better than David Montgomery, and if the Bears want to make it back to the playoffs, they need to vastly improve their 26th ranked rushing attack. AD is the answer, and he looks like he has a couple of more years in him, maybe even a few more. AD was just rumored to be worth 2 first-round picks just some years ago. He hasn't sustained any major injuries. He hasn't lost much of a step if he has, and he's able to put up a 100-yard rushing game and carry the load still. He just carried the ball 23 times against the Dolphins for 118 yards just a few days ago. He definitely has it in him, and again, his contract is ridiculously cheap. Easily one of the top 3 values on our team so far as production divided by dollar. He's less than $2 million worth of a salary cap hit. So me being optimistic with some realism for the purpose of this exercise, the Bears will give us their 13th pick in the second round. Now this is a franchise-changing haul of draft picks. And we have Kyle Smith running the draft again? He's the one primarily responsible for these last 3 drafts we've had. Most notably, this most recent one. He can make magic happen with this easily. Who can mess up a draft with 4 first-round picks, with 3 of them being in the top 13? But it's my turn now. Let's get it. With the 2nd overall pick in the draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, edge out of Ohio State. And just to put it simply, Nick Bosa, the top edge rusher drafted from Ohio State this past draft, had 26 QB pressures through the first 5 games of the season, which is the most by a rookie since Pro Focus was created. Nick Bosa is a very important part of the 49ers' top 3 defense this year. Now imagine that, but with a far better injury history, a very noticeably quicker first step, and just an overall more athletic player. That is what you get with Chase Young. It's crazy. Chase Young is everything a diddly pass rusher needs, especially in a 4-3 defense. We run a 3-4 defense, but we are in nickel with 4 down linemen most of the time anyway. He would be perfect for replacing Ryan Kerrigan. Him and Montez Sweat would give us the most dynamic pass rush duo we've probably ever had in franchise history, and could become a premier edge duo in the NFL in a couple of years, which is mostly dependent on whether or not Montez Sweat will develop, because Chase Young is as sure as a product gets in the draft. Chase Young is a powerful, intelligent, aggressive edge setter in run defense, and his athleticism, quickness, power, and length set him up to be a deadly double-digit sack monster right out of the gate every year of his career. He can rush from both a 2-point stance standing up or with a hand in the turf in a 3-point stance. He has good bend, but has a far better ability to flip his hips quickly and with very smooth fluidity. So he has the power to dominate the edge and run support and bull rush when rushing the passer, but he also has the speed, smoothness, hands, technique, bend, and hip fluidity to be a speedy pass rusher. It's really not fair. To me, he's the best prospect available in this draft. You got your Tua, your Jerry Jeudy, your Justin Herberts, all of them. But to me, even though quarterback is a more important position, I feel like Chase Young is better at what he does than what anybody else does in this draft, regardless of position. And I can't wait to draft him. Now with the 8th overall pick, the Washington Redskins select Jeffery Okudah, cornerback out of Ohio State. That's Ohio State, the whole program. We already have the Ohio State franchise quarterback in Dwayne Haskins, the true Ohio State #1 receiver in Terry McLaurin, the generational Ohio State edge rusher in Chase Young, who we just drafted. We might as well go and get the best corner available in a draft since Jalen Ramsey. That's what I'm hearing and reading out here. Okudah is the best cornerback talent since Jalen Ramsey in 2016. So the best cornerback prospect in 4 years, better than Marlon Humphrey, Adoree Jackson, Garyon Conley, Kevin King, Denzel Ward, Isaiah Oliver, Jazair Alexander. That's crazy. That's very high praise. But from what I've seen so far, he deserves this type of draft buzz. I hope it dies down before the draft so he can make it to our hypothetical 8th overall pick, because his hype is insane right now. I've even heard that he's the best corner to come out of Ohio State. Who is DBU? That means better than Patrick Peterson and Marshawn Lattimore. I'm also hearing that he is literally as good as Jalen Ramsey. It's insane. He's the perfect blend of elite athleticism, ideal size, maturity, intelligence, and self-motivation. All of the ingredients you need to be an all-pro cornerback in this league, especially at 6'1", 200 pounds. He is the model shutdown on an island corner, a Jalen Ramsey, Darrelle Revis type of man cover corner. He has exceptional footwork, ridiculous recovery speed, fluid hips, great agility, and versatile coverage ability. Ohio State has effectively used him in press man, off man, zone, and press bail, but he is most effective in press bail coverage. He doesn't fall for exaggerated movements by receivers, so he is able to shadow receivers very effectively. He is with them step for step. And lastly, he is a willing and physical run defender, not afraid to stack blockers and make tackles. Him on the opposing team's #1 receiver, Quentin Dunbar on the next best, and Jimmy Moreland in the slot? With Landon Collins' playmaking and Monte Nicholson's rare speed and range, that's a no-fly zone, period. And now with the 13th overall pick, the Washington Redskins select Andrew Thomas, tackle out of Georgia. If he makes it to the 13th pick, which is very possible because this is a very talented quarterback, running back, edge rusher, and wide receiver draft class, great offensive linemen may be available later in this draft than expected due to the unique talent available at other position groups. Also, Tristan Wirfs from Iowa is starting to get a lot of hype and may be taken even before Andrew Thomas in this draft. If we already have drafted Chase Young and Jeffery Okudah and Andrew Thomas is available, we have to draft him. He's a long-arm, thick-frame tackle with minimal bad weight, which allows him to be both very powerful and mobile. He has great length and exceptional footwork to handle small, speedy edge rushers who come flying off the edge with wide rushers and double moves back inside. He counters those very well. He also has the firm base and anchor, strong arms, knee bend, and churning footwork to handle strong bull rushers whichever way he wants to. He has a deadly punch to stun rushers when he pops up from his snap. His posture, stance, and body control and use of leverage is A1. And he also has experience executing a variety of pro sets, techniques, and concepts as well. So the intelligence and experience is also there. He's not just a clay with high potential that needs to be molded. He can start day one at left tackle, hold it down better than anybody we currently have on our team, and he will only get better as he gains more experience. He is a big bully that beats people up. And I mean big as in size with his massive body frame, and I mean big as in mean and aggressive. But along with him being a bully, he also has the technique and intelligence to counter whatever an edge rusher or defensive end will throw at him. He diagnoses a lot of pre-snap movements and communication that usually confuses most other offensive linemen, and he adapts to them very well with almost flawless execution. Stunts and twists don't work against him because he sees them as soon as they begin, and he not only sets himself up to win, but he also helps his guard out so they can win their matchup. It's crazy. And he's from the SEC, so he's doing all of this and putting on all of this great film against the best defensive linemen and edge rushers in the country, and he usually dominates them. The production and potential are definitely there. We won't have to worry about left tackle for at least 10 years after we draft him. With the 25th overall pick in the draft, the Washington Redskins select Bryson Hopkins, the Jordan Reed tight end out of Purdue, an Evan Ingram clone with more power. He is an excellent route runner with great footwork at 6'5". His footwork is even better than most receiving tight ends that you'd expect to have good feet. His is up here with it. He is a very athletic tight end with a very unique blend of speed, quickness, and size, and he has a very quick first step and great acceleration also. So he is a mismatch nightmare like Jordan Reed is. He's too big for DBs, and he's too big and fast for linebackers. It's just not fair when he's in the slot. He also has great soft hands with a large catch radius. Third down tyrant, red zone reaper. But he is also a deadly option down the field with the speed that will catch DBs off guard because it's coming from such a big body. Very deceptive speed. And most importantly, he is used to running a lot of routes on the route tree already, which means he's far ahead of the curve. Because most tight ends and even receivers struggle with learning routes after they reach the NFL, and it stunts their growth. Bryson already has a lot of the routes down. He's not just a slant route or a run up the seams type of tight end. And even with him being one of the best receiving tight ends in this draft, he can also block pretty well. The power I mentioned earlier translates into his blocking. He also has good balance with his power, so it's not displaced and misused. Like, he's not out there putting all of his strength in the blocks, but having bad hand placement and losing leverage, or just completely missing like Jordan Reed and Bernice Davis do a lot when they're trying to block. And even beyond all of that, he is very versatile. Not only has he been very effective from the slot and as an inline tight end for blocking, but he's also had plenty of experience putting his hand in the dirt in the backfield also. Diddly Swiss Army knife. He just needs to work on anchoring better to be a Zach Ertz level blocker, but he is already a better blocker than Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis today, and can easily become even better. And with the 18th pick of the second round, the Washington Redskins draft Alex Leatherwood, tackle out of Alabama. Athletic freak, one of the most athletic tackles in this entire draft. And he doesn't just only have a great ability to move in space and have a quick first step like a Jerron Christian, but he also has a lot of natural power, which is literally Jerron Christian's biggest weakness. He gets bullied. Alex Leatherwood does not get bullied. He does the bullying. He only loses battles because of his lack of technique. He isn't completely raw technique-wise, but he is more like a raw clay that can easily be molded by a franchise, molded into a franchise Pro Bowl right tackle to go on the other side of who we just drafted, Andrew Thomas. Especially since he already has the mental part of the game down. He just needs to work on technique. All of the physical gifts are there, and he mentally understands the game, just needs to refine his technique, like hand placement and timing, stance, avoid leaning, and he needs to work on squaring up correctly. Look at him as a more athletic, far stronger Jerron Christian, whose sole weakness is that he is weak, at least to NFL standards. So here's our Morgan Moses replacement right there. With the first pick of the fourth round, the Washington Redskins select Troy Dye, linebacker out of Oregon. Think of him as a Leighton Vander Esch that just needs to improve his instincts. He has the same strengths and weaknesses coming out of college as Leighton Vander Esch. Now, of course, Leighton Vander Esch of the Cowboys has fixed a lot of those weaknesses that he had coming out of college, but the Redskins can do the same with Troy Dye. Troy Dye is a 6'4", 225-pound inside linebacker. That size is rare, especially with the speed and athleticism he has. He has excellent range. He can cover ground so well, so he is a great answer for these speedy offenses that try to spread defenses out. His size and speed also make him an answer for covering these receiving tight ends man to man that we struggle with every week. He also has film out there to show that he is well versed in zone coverage. He is comfortable with filling for receivers while watching the quarterback's eyes and movements, and he also shows good route anticipation. As far as getting through traffic, similar to Leighton Vander Esch coming out of college, he is not a powerful and disengaging linebacker that will shed blocks easily. But unlike Leighton Vander Esch coming out of college, he has the quickness, lateral agility, and flexibility to consistently slip past blocks like an edge rusher does around tackles. He also has one of the highest motors in college. Never quits and is always hype. Brings a big spirit to the defense. But again, he needs to work on his awareness and ability to diagnose plays quicker. And that comes with reps, time, and coaching. He's sort of a raw clay that has all of the athletic ability necessary and a high motor, but just needs to get the mental part down as far as processing and quick decision making. We could have a Tremaine Edmonds on our hands. I'm not saying it's very likely, but it's possible if we develop him the right way. All of the potential is there. With the first pick of the fifth round, the Washington Redskins select Isaiah Hodgins, wide receiver out of Oregon State. He is a 6'4" wide receiver that can be who we were hoping Cam Sims could be. He has the size, hands, quick area burst, deceptive speed for somebody his size, and the yak ability to be a deadly pass catching option. but he just has to work on refining his routes and learning more routes within the route tree. He is pretty inexperienced when it comes to a lot of things, like he hasn't faced press man coverage a lot, and he hasn't been asked to run a lot of different routes. And he hasn't been asked to block much either. So he has the physical tools, and it will be up to the Redskins coaching staff to mature him into a Pro Bowl wide receiver. But it will take a lot of work and time. That's why it's very possible for him to be available in the 5th round. Very high ceiling, pretty low floor. And with the second pick of the 6th round, the Washington Redskins select Eric Stokes, cornerback out of Georgia. Very similar to Jimmy Moreland, does everything that comes with being a cornerback very well, but he's just undersized. But unlike Jimmy Moreland, he has the height and the long arms, just not the weight. Eric Stokes is 6'1", but is under 180 pounds, and actually closer to 170 than 180, which is alarming. He definitely has the frame to gain a lot of muscle once he gets into an NFL workout program, so it's fixable, but as of right now, he's a twig. But just like Jimmy Moreland, very fluid hips, twitchy, rangy, quick, agile type of cornerback. Very quick burst and really good long speed. Fast everywhere, in every way. His footwork is great. He can change directions as well as the best of them. And he is very good at soft press and stays balanced when jamming people. He also has a unique skill for making plays on the ball at the catch point to knock down very catchable balls, which is a very good skill to have when going against big body receivers with a large catch radius. And with unique athleticism, smooth hips and footwork, and intelligence, he is able to take very favorable risks and be very aggressive in coverage. He doesn't wait for things to happen in front of him and then just go make the tackle. His goal is to make sure every pass his way is not completed at all. But of course his size, well his skinniness to be exact, is a serious problem at the NFL level, but it is fixable. But as of right now, putting him on the field would be a super struggle. He wouldn't be much of a help in run support at all, and he would get bodied by larger and more aggressive receivers. His great coverage skills wouldn't even matter that much. He'd just be getting boxed out. So basically just imagine a 6'1" Jimmy Moreland with longer arms that can easily put on a lot more muscle. He's a projection, he is a project, but in the 6th round, he's definitely worth it. If somehow we could add a lot more weight to him, it will be very difficult, but it is possible. His talent can almost be up there with a Jeffery Okudah, who we just drafted. And with the 4th pick of the 7th round, the Washington Redskins select Solomon Kinley, interior offensive lineman out of Georgia. Let's Georgia the program up too. We already got the Bama boys, Ohio State. Let's go ahead and bring in some Georgia boys. And let's turn this offensive line around. He may be long gone before the 7th round, but you never know. His footwork needs quite a bit of work, and that's nothing easy to coach and correct. He also needs to slim down a little to improve his lateral mobility, but other than that, he's a great interior lineman prospect. Very strong with an elite level of pop at his initial punch. And not only does he have one of the strongest punches out of his draft class, he also has a very strong anchor, so he can get both a great push and run blocking and sit still and give up no inches of ground when getting bull rushed and pass protection. He's more mobile than somebody his size should be, but slimming down some and catching his footwork up with his mind and eyes would make him a freak of nature. And it's possible, but it will definitely take some time, coaching, and work. It's not a guarantee at all. Also, his experience in the SEC, like I mentioned earlier with Andrew Thomas, helps him develop very well. He's gone against the best of the best and has performed well. He went toe-to-toe with Quinnen Williams, one of the most dominant defensive linemen to ever play college football during the 2018 SEC championship game. But he did lose some battles, but they were all strictly due to his loss of footing. He has a lot of potential, and him, along with the other 2 offensive linemen we drafted early in this mock draft, will all be the most athletic offensive linemen on the team the day we draft them. Brandon Sheriff might be up there with him, but that's definitely up for debate. We're definitely going athleticism this draft. With these 3 offensive linemen, we can completely turn our offensive line struggles around. Even if their technique isn't perfect, at the very least they'll be strong and agile. And with our last pick of the draft, the Washington Redskins select Patric Taylor Jr., running back out of Memphis. He's a 6'3" goal line beast that will run anybody over. His leg drive, power, and contact balance are all great. And not only is he 6'3", but he has a lot of experience working from the slot, so he is a great pass catching option. And even with his tall frame, he is very twitchy with great burst and good cutting ability. But he has some weaknesses, of course. That's why he can very possibly make it to the 7th round. His vision and anticipation is his biggest weakness by far. He also isn't the most dynamic cutter, but he's 6'3", so how can he be? And he also has a small injury history. He's another player that can be great if we develop him well and are patient with him. And that's my draft, my dream draft, our dream draft. Just imagine drafting an even better Nick Bosa, a Jalen Ramsey clone, a better Laramie Tunsil, a Jordan Reed with far better blocking, a franchise tackle with freakish athleticism to replace Morgan Moses and avoid all of those penalties, a potential Leighton Vander Esch, a wide receiver that can turn into what we hoped Cam Sims could be, a cornerback that can be a lockdown corner if he's able to add some weight, a freakishly athletic interior offensive lineman that went toe-to-toe with Quinnen Williams and he could compete for the starting job, or at the very least be a far better option off the bench than Tony Bergstrom. And lastly, a running back that reminds me of a tall Alvin Kamara that needs to work on his vision and awareness a lot. That's a beautiful draft. That can change this franchise around. And even though Bruce Allen is still here, all of this draft capital and potential to bring in this haul of players in a draft class can make this Redskins head coaching vacancy very attractive to head coaching candidates out there. If the Redskins front office is able to finagle it the way I just did, head coaches would love to coach this team. After this draft, we will have our franchise quarterback with all of the potential in the world, Dwayne Haskins starting at quarterback. We will have Andrew Thomas at left tackle, future All-Pro, Solomon Kinley or Eric Flowers, who has been our most dependable offensive lineman this year, starting at left guard, Chase Roulier, who's been pretty dependable at center, or Solomon Kinley can possibly start there, Pro Bowl Brandon Sheriff at right guard, and then Alex Leatherwood, future Pro Bowler at right tackle. Hogs 2.0, you just got to re-sign Brandon Sheriff or franchise tag him to make it work. That offensive line will be able to both protect Haskins and create huge running lanes for Darius Geis, Bryce Love, and Patric Taylor. Potentially the deadliest three-headed monster running back group in the league. And then our receiving core may not be the most exciting or experienced, but Terry McLaurin will be our number one receiver with a developing group of Trey Quinn, Kelvin Harmon, Steve Sims, and Isaiah Hodgins, and an overpaid Paul Richardson. That will without a doubt be our weakest position group on the team, but they can definitely get the job done, especially with Scary Terry leading the way and with the dominant run game setting up play action. And there's also the future at tight end. Our better blocking Evan Ingram and Bryson Hopkins, and a developing Jeremy Sprinkle that can both block and is starting to learn how to be a decent option in the passing game. Then on defense, the defensive line is young and great with Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Matt Ioannidis, and Tim Settle. We already know how they go. Then there's the deadly edge rusher duo in Montez Sweat and Chase Young, causing chaos and mayhem in the NFC East for years to come. Can easily compete to be the best edge duo in the league once Montez Sweat develops. And then there's our inside linebacker core that will feature a young, very hungry, and very talented Reuben Foster on his revenge tour, a Sean Dion Hamilton who is developing and getting better right in front of our eyes, and the Leighton Vander Esch-like Troy Dye. At 6'4", very long arms, crazy range. He will be our big upgraded version of Josh Harvey Clemens. And then the cornerback group will be the Jalen Ramsey clone and Jeffery Okudah, dangerously underrated Quentin Dunbar, who can easily be cornerback 1, but we'll have him at cornerback 2 because Jeffery Okudah is just that good. Jimmy Moreland in the slot, and then Fabian, I haven't given up on his high potential yet, Moreau, and 6'1" Jimmy Moreland clone Eric Stokes. And then the safety room will be playmaking sure tackler Landon Collins, who just recently won NFC Defensive Player of the Week, and Monte Nicholson, who has very rare speed and range. Just needs to be used the right way with a better defensive coordinator. And that's a very bright future. If you ask me. We will be more talented than most teams we play if Haskins develops as well as I expect him to. It would just be up to competent coaching to turn all of this talent into wins. A creative offensive coordinator who can take advantage of this impenetrable offensive line, Haskins' arm, and our receiving group speed. An aggressive defensive coordinator that can take advantage of one of the deadliest pass rushers in the league, and cornerback group that can man up and shut down wide receiver on islands so we can scheme up complicated and unexpected blitzes. And then a head coach that will demand greatness from his staff and players and hold them all accountable, call people out when they are not exceeding expectations, make practices hard and effective, and then make smart decisions in situational football and time manage effectively. With those coaches in this dream scenario of a roster, we will be destined for greatness. And we will be on First Take for the good reasons and not being laughed at or questioned. Bruce Allen gotta go though. But even with Bruce Allen, those coaches in this draft class with these players already on the team, I just don't see how that even Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder can mess that up. But that's it for this regular season episode of Redskins Report. Thanks for the view. I'm going to keep bringing y'all updates on the Redskins year round. I'm going to keep bringing y'all some Redskins reports, debate topics, mock drafts like this, interesting views, rankings and grades on the team, random details and guides, game previews and reviews, and of course those live streams. Make sure y'all get in them comments and let me know, how do you feel about these draft picks? Can this assortment of talent really turn around this franchise? Are there any sleepers that you really want the Redskins to draft come April 2020? Are there any sleepers out there? Also, make sure you Dolomite fake punch that like button, favorite, subscribe, I'll subscribe back, and most importantly, comment and share. And again, thank y'all for the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.